Good morning. And today what we have is a tasty beverage of hot water. Yep, hot water. I had some coffee. Following it up with hot water now, and my oh my, do we have a bit of work to do. So, let's get right to it. First of all, let's turn our attention to the spiral notebook where we can look at what the agenda is today. Number one, shot number 117, which of course is this shot right here that I was working on a couple days ago. Need to finish that up. There's a few things that need to be fixed. Main thing being Carliana's costuming. Actually, as I look through the surrounding shots, some of which were done quite a long time ago, her costuming was a little off. Colors were not quite correct on her headdress. There's one aspect of it that I'm going to sort of let go by, which has got to do with the way the neck part of the head covering goes. But on the other hand, in the earlier shots, she had this necklace that really needs to be in there. And also there's a stripe on the headdress that needs to be put in there. So, and plus there's two backgrounds that still need to be finished and polished up. Number two, we need to look at how the edit changed. If we go back over here, morning sifter. If we go back over here, yesterday I identified a problem in this shot right here. I guess probably the best way to look at it would be over here. Okay, and the issue being that if we really follow through the perspective and whatnot, in point of fact, if she were to keep moving on the path she's on, and by the way, let me check something here real quick. Okay, I want to make sure the pencil test wasn't actually rendering through. It turns out that she's a giant. I'm sorry, wrong. The old man is a giant, because if this perspective, in other words, you could look at it this way. The camera that's looking at her and the camera, or the lens I should say, that's looking at the old man and the lens that's looking at the background, but especially the two characters, are basically two different camera lenses. It's not quite working. But the solution didn't really require me to completely redo the shot. I was able to actually fix it at the editing stage, and I'll show how I did that. Okay, number three, shot number 122. A quick fix, which involved defocusing the background. Frankly, I'm not even going to get into that. I'll just say, here it is. This shot right here, one of the things I was debating is whether TNR was a little off character. Mainly the difference is she's a little more wide-eyed here, and her eyes are kind of more down and almost look a little different. But I think we're okay. One problem though that does come to light here is that there's a pretty strong case to be made for putting the doggone pendant in these earlier shots. So let's just say here that according to the spiral notebook, this is done. Okay, so I'll just go over to the red here and say this is done, the defocus, but we need to let's just put this in blue so I don't forget. We need to add necklace, or pendant is actually what I called it, to shot number 9099K. So that was a shot I did, I think, earlier last week. So we just kind of left the necklace out. And that pendant, I guess I keep saying it necklace, I mean pendant. Same thing probably. Is kind of important because it comes up again way downstream in episode 2. So, number 4, shot number 124. Redo. A redo, what are we talking about? Well, if we go over here to the edit, let me just check. Okay, yeah. So we got this shot here is the one I'm talking about, where her animation is a little on the choppy side, for sure, and her characterization's pretty rough. as well as the outlines on the character probably just need to be punched up a bit. So this is basically a fairly quickly done sloppy shot from, I'm going to guess, like 8 months ago or something. It actually was done in OpenToonz or Tahoma, and so it shouldn't be too big of a job to fix it up. But if we look at Carliana, in this shot, this shot, this shot, this shot, we can see there basically her characterization's okay, but here her headdress is the wrong color, and as well there's some sort of decoration on it that you see here, and her pendant that are glaringly absent in this shot. So that shouldn't again take that long to fix, but needs to be done. And then there's the topic of what I would call business stuff, which relates to crowdfunding, Patreon, Udemy, things like that. Different platforms that serve different purposes, but which really, for me, everything about that really surrounds the topic of something that you guys may, kind of struggle with or, be thinking about as well, which is how to take your very closely held personal creative efforts and monetize them and turn them into coin, so that you can basically, as I've said in other videos, just put your head down and focus on the creative work that you want to do. So, in what order shall we do these? Well, I think let's just stick with the order in which they're written. So, number one would be finish up 117. Let's go to 117 and actually strike that. I'm going to make one exception to what I said about finishing up, or the order. I'm going to do number 2 first, how the edit changed. So, here in the spiral notebook, I'm going to just circle this blue, which tells me that, yeah, Dave, you did that. Okay, so let's go back here. And the main problem, as I said, was that from the standpoint of perspective, this is a little weak. Okay. In most respects, the shots look pretty good. I do need to add some cityscape background here and probably some clouds on this sky. But basically, the background work shouldn't take too long. And that would be consistent with the overall feel of this entire sequence, because really, it's a little cartoony, but the idea is that you've got these almost sort of, not quite Bullwinkle or Underdog level backgrounds, but it's just kind of the vibe of this sequence is pretty simplistic. Okay, so anyway, to address number 2 on the spiral notebook, here's what I did. Let me just see here. We got this shot. We got Tianara. Okay, so what I did was I took the shot, which was, if we look at this in the trimmer, you can see here's the continuity. Here's the entire shot from start to finish. So this is a little hard to see maybe, but I'm just going to hit the go button, and you can see she walks. There's the old man. She approaches him, and then she smacks him a good one, and ostensibly knocks the coins out of his hand. Okay, well, getting back to something we've been talking about a lot the last 2 days, which is editing and how you can, you use every tool in your toolkit to like make it work, And in this case, what I noticed was that if I ran a really quick edit between this movement across the screen right into this shot where she's already moving, but then cut away from it back to Tianara's reaction, before we ever get a chance to really notice the perspective problem, right? Because if she took another step, all of a sudden the scale difference, you'd begin to see it. So I just cut it short, cut to this, and then bopped back to the old man. And when I looked at that re-edited version of it, it was like, there you go, very smooth. It's very Robert Rodriguez. And what I mean by that is very, very rapid fire editing. Bam, bam, bam. Keep the story moving. Lots of changes. And I think it works. When I showed it to my lovely wife, Valerie, who, by the way, does not dish out compliments easily. I mean, and she's, if it didn't work, she would be very quick to say so. And I trust her judgment. She's actually quite a good editor. So when I showed her this re-edit, I'm like, what do you think? And she's like, yeah, looks smooth as silk to her. Boom, boom, boom. So all we really used this angle here for from 117 is just to provide that continuity, and then kind of our focus is still on that moment of TNR's reaction, like what's going down here kind of thing. Okay, so we sort of solved the most egregious aspects of 117 with editing, and I'm pretty satisfied that those solutions were sufficient. Okay, what else do we have? All right, so now what we're going to do, referring back to the spiral notebook, is we're going to finish up shot 117. How are we going to do that? By the way, the reason I keep mentioning the spiral notebook, hey Max, say hi to her from me. She sounds like a kinder spirit. She is my bestest best friend. She's my bestest best friend, and I love her with all my heart. She's pretty fine too, if I do say so myself. Anyway, so the reason I mention the spiral notebook is, I kid you not, guys, I'm not joking now. I'm going to tell you, one day about a year ago, I went out on Amazon and I actually purchased pencil lead in different colors because I was experimenting with doing animation breakdowns on paper, right? Now, ultimately, for my purposes, what I learned was that, at least for me, no matter what I do, if I do scanned, art, scan it from paper, I basically can't get the look that I'm after, and it's enormously more time consuming, like way, way, way more than doing things digitally. The win just isn't there. So what I learned actually through that process was that mapping out, like pre-doing the drawings, or blocking in what I think the timing needs to be and stuff like that, doing that all on paper, and in fact limiting it to a single page. So the shot that I'm going to do, I block it in on paper. I don't do it every time, but what's interesting about that is, number one, as a planning tool, it's awesome. And did I just say number one or number two? I have not been drinking, unless you count drinking hot water. But number one is that as a planning tool, using paper to block in your animation and basically practice the drawings, sort of get the characterization figured out on paper first, is super useful. And it's mobile. I can do it anywhere. I can go walk out in the Esplanade and sit on a park bench if I want to, or whatever. So from that standpoint, it's wonderful. As an actual tool to start doing the real art and then somehow bring it in the computer, it's absolutely worthless for me. Doesn't work. But what's really weird about it, so this is why you might want to try it too. What's really weird about it is I've had multiple shots and background paintings that I initially did on paper, like as a pencil drawing or something. A lot of grayscale shading, and in the case of animation, just basically blocking in a scene. And I've had at least a dozen. Hey, Tom, you're here on time today. Right on, man. You're not late. I love it. I'm just poking you, dude. I'm kidding. But what I found was, at least a dozen times, I have blocked in a shot on paper and then forgotten about it. And then later did the shot on the computer, and not only did those shots tend to come out better, but I would be like totally freaked out because I'd go back and I'd look at the paper and realize that what I did on the computer really closely matched what I had done on paper, even though I hadn't been looking at the paper when I did the shot. So this is kind of a weird thing. I mean, it speaks to, in the area of sort of goals or personal performance or that sort of thing. Brian Tracy maintains, you can look him up, but does maintain that if you write down a goal, if you do nothing more than write down a goal and then fold up the paper and put it away and don't look at it for a year, you'll be amazed how often, just by virtue of having written it down, that you find, oh my gosh, the goal comes true kind of thing. I do believe that is a fact. We don't fully understand quite how or why that works, although we have some ideas. Some of those ideas are scientific, some of them are religious. Take your pick, folks. Take your pick. You can do it any way you want. But the point is, it kind of sort of works. And I think this is a manifestation of that. So if I map something out on paper, it's really weird how it tends to not only improve the work, but also the way the two match is almost scary. So anyway, having said that, what do we got? Finish up 117. So we got to deal with her costume, her necklace, and 2 backgrounds. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to reference the edit here, and I'm not going to put it on this screen because it's going to be too distracting. But I've got what I did was I put some markers here in Vegas so that I can actually go control left arrow and actually toggle between these different shots of Carliana. And again, if you want to nitpick it, this characterization and this characterization, you could argue they're slightly different. We can sort of duke it out on that one, but basically, I think we're in the zone. But we really need to get her pendant in place. And let me look at this wider version of this shot. Yeah, see, you can see this pendant has, and unfortunately it's occluded in that shot, but this pendant has, like, I think 5 coins. You could say coins. So it's like hanging down here. You got these kind of gold coins on it, and also she's got this red stripe around here. Plus, obviously, you guys can surely see that this has a bit of a pink tint to it, which is completely wrong. So that's easy to fix. Quick and easy to fix. I've already fixed it, actually. So here we've got the color is corrected. And now let's go through and let's just kind of make this easy. The decoration on the garment is pretty much this color, I would say. So I'm just going to take the V key and I'm going to leave it in areas mode. So I'm using the Smart Raster Paint tool. 5 talismans. Yeah, more or less. Yeah. Smog 911. I almost said Smogging 11, but yes, Smog 911. Yeah, 5 talismans, basically, yeah. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave the Smart Raster Paint tool, what OpenToonz calls the paint brush. And, oh, I don't want to be in rendered mode. That way the outlines will be unaffected. And that's pretty much it right there. I'm going to go ahead and pop this up to 6, just because then I can do it in one swipe. But yeah, that's pretty much all we needed. So here on the next frame, I'm going to bop this down to 5. Because she's moving away. Actually, I'm going to leave that one on 6, come to think of it. So, very economical. Adds a little production value to her costuming. Oops, so 58 is definitely not what I intended. Okay, so let's just keep rocking here. And I want to respect the fact that it really is true that little details like this can really add a lot to your show. Your show and mine. Okay, so this is going to be 4, that's the default I use. It seems to be a good size for being able to just quick and dirty either just color something in by hand or draw a shape like this and then fill it, right? So either way, I do think I want to redo this line though, because I didn't really like the way I did that part of it. So yeah, I tend to leave this at 4 pixels most of the time. Okay, so I don't think that this drawing right here actually makes it into the show. I think that's what I cut out. Pretty sure, in fact, it might have been the last 2. So if I just go like this, I can jump back over to the show and it will already have updated the edit. So there it is. So now you see the, so yeah, that actually, it's kind of scary how much that does add to, it just makes it pop a little bit, adds a little bit more production value. Why paintbrush instead of brush and area instead of a line? Two reasons, Tom. That's such a great question. Everybody else watching, of which there are apparently 3 others, probably may not realize what a great question that is. But here's why. If I use the brush, okay, so in fact, let me let's all wait a second and let Tahoma2D save this project, and then I'm going to go in with the brush and show you precisely why I don't like using the brush for things like this. Excuse me. If I hit the B key, now Murphy's Law says now the problem I'm about to elucidate won't work. But what you're going to do is, because at the end of the day, remember, a Toonz raster level, or a smart raster level as Tahoma2D calls it, is by definition a 2-dimensional flat pixel grid at the end of the day. Okay? Therefore, when I use the brush as opposed to the smart raster paintbrush, I am adding to my drawing ostensibly the higher priority pixels, because lines kind of have a higher priority than areas. Okay, because the lines provide the obviously the demarcation points between shapes so that the fill tool can do its magic, right? Well, the problem is that it's well known that OpenToonz and Tahoma kind of have a hard time deciding how to deal with when you've drawn lines and then you want to draw more lines over top of them. Instead of just giving the new lines priority, which is what you would expect, especially if you select this little thing that says overall versus under all and palette order. Okay? In fact, let's just look at that. If we go to palette order, theoretically what should happen right now is if I draw a line, the line should appear under the outlines because the outlines are higher up on the palette. Let's see what happens. Okay? Now let's look really closely, and what we find is it kind of, sort of, but barely works. What it did was it sort of imposed in on the lines a little bit. It did not clearly draw under them by any stretch of the imagination. And by the opposite token, if you will, if I put it in overall mode, it is iffy as to whether it will cover up the old lines. It's doing a better job than it sometimes does, and it's even worse if you try to like color in an area like this. So you wind up with this really harsh alpha. The basic problem with the brush, the native brushes in Tahoma or OpenToonz, basically has to do probably with pre-multiplication. I'm using a term that I know Tom understands. But it's got to do with the way it processes the alpha around the lines, meaning the areas of pixels with your ink lines that are in fact partially transparent. It actually does not manage the imposition of lines over lines very well at all. Okay, not at all. Whereas if you use the smart raster paintbrush, or what OpenToonz calls the paintbrush versus the brush, what happens is your lines will be like this, where they clearly are painted underneath the outlines. And if I were to select lines and areas, or just lines, it would very, very explicitly definitely paint over them. So in both cases, whether you're wanting to stay under or over, you will get more predictable results with the Smart Raster Paintbrush tool. There I'm painting the lines. If I do lines and areas, as you can see, it completely covers them up. So much more predictable results at a price. What's the price? The price is, as you can see, the lines are not anti-aliased on the one hand, and you don't have pressure on the other hand. The question then becomes, do you care? And in the ways that I'm using it, I don't. I couldn't possibly care less about the anti-aliasing. We're dealing with a 4-pixel line, and when this is rendered, it's going to look just fine. And if it didn't, because if you look real close, you can see pixelation, then of course I can add anti-aliasing to my level right here. So if I turn this to 100, let's say, wango bango, now those lines are anti-aliased as well. It's your choice whether that's important to you, but I hope that answers your question. I think it probably answered it pretty thoroughly. So here we go. Tick the pencil checkbox and try that. No. Well, you're okay. So Tom's bringing up a very good point. He is correct. Okay, and actually, that is actually a really good point. So Tom's making the point that if you wanted to use the brush, so in other words, if you want, essentially, if you want pressure sensitivity, if you're talking about doing what I'm talking about doing, and you want pressure sensitivity, let me add a quick caveat. Everything I'm talking about right now does not pertain and is not relevant to this shot. Why? Because I specifically wanted the color that I was applying to be under the lines. Okay, so everything we're talking about now is not pertinent to what I'm actually doing here. But what Tom's saying is this. He's saying, well, wait a second. If you want to draw lines that you know are definitely going to be over your old lines, and you've already established just a moment ago that a lack of anti-aliasing doesn't matter, then why not use the B brush tool? You've got pressure sensitivity on, but put it in pencil mode. What pencil mode does is it gets rid of anti-aliasing, and of course you can't see it because it's not in preview mode. It gets rid of the anti-aliasing, as you can see, very choppy looking, but it also gives you the benefit of you've got your pressure sensitivity, which you can't see much here because I've got a brush that's only going from 2 to 4 pixels. But so let's turn it up like this and you can see. So now you've got the ability to strongly cover up your old lines, no problem. It definitely works by clicking pencil. And again, you pay the same price, which is that the new lines you add are not anti-aliased. In most cases, Tom's correct. That lack of anti-aliasing doesn't matter, and the pencil option does solve the problem I'm talking about if your goal is to cover stuff as opposed to going under it. If you want to go under it, you're pretty much stuck with the Smart Raster paintbrush. So now, let's ask this question. Maybe in pencil mode, maybe underall actually does... No. Now, actually, see, this is why these options, Tom, you're familiar with the OpenToonz code base, so maybe you can look into this. But as you see here, by going under all, what it did was it kind of went under, but it also thinned out the old lines, which is kind of stupid. It's like, under what circumstances would you want that behavior? I can't think of too many situations. And that's the way OpenToonz has worked ever since it was released as an open source project way before Tahoma2D existed. So you can still reintroduce anti-aliasing to O2 through level setting. Well, yeah, I showed that just a moment ago. Okay, so Sifter's talking about this. Level settings, add anti-aliasing. And it does a really good job. What I've found is you want to set the amount to like 100. You don't want to put a dinky little tiny number generally. So, all right. So enough of that. I will keep rocking. I'm going to go, I guess I did save my work just a little bit ago. So I'm going to go here. And then my question becomes, what about, yes. Let's turn this on. In other words, so we're not cropping to the camera. And then let's grab this color and just do the same doggone thing we've been doing. Again, here we probably want this to be about 7, I think. This is where I probably should flip the canvas, if the truth be known, because then I could, being right-handed, I'm trying to draw over something I can't actually see. This one doesn't matter because it's outside of the camera. This does matter. Okay, and I'm just going to go ahead and hand paint this a little bit. Boom. Okay, so now we have a little bit of a problem. The solution is to go hit the S key, Control C, go to the next frame, and just hit the S key again to be safe, and hit Control V. Pop it back in there. Okay, here we have Tahoma2D's common problem of there's some functions that you will hit the hotkey and it just doesn't register that you press the hotkey, and that happened a moment ago. I hit the V key and nothing happened. It's a little annoying, people. A little annoying. So, and by the way, for those who are wondering if you can map the changing of your brush size to a hotkey, you can. So you can look into that yourself in the preferences. But as far as setting up a hotkey so that you can just change your brush size on the fly, you can do it. I actually change my brush size so infrequently that's just not that big of a deal to have that dialed in. I like it better in Krita where you basically hit Control Drag and it resizes. Or wait, I haven't used Krita in a while too much. It might be Shift. It might be Shift, but anyway, point is that it really is a mouse function in Krita. So, there we go. Save our work. So we got her costuming fixed up from the standpoint of the stripes. But what is still lacking, of course, is the pendant. And I do believe, I'm feeling frisky. I think what I'm going to do is I am actually going to, let's flip this back, and I'm going to smack these pendants in here, probably again with the Smart Raster Paint tool. Let me see. Yeah, see, in the other shot, well, I guess I could switch back here and let you guys see, but in the other shots, they really were just painted in as shapes for the most part. So it's basically a two-tone thing where you've got the gold and then you got the shadow, right? So let's just see. Boom, boom, boom. The best shot of it's here, but yeah, basically it's just and oh my gosh. Let me see. I just detected another problem we're gonna have to fix. This is actually super annoying. This is not only annoying, but it's embarrassing. Yeah. Doggone it. I've got a bunch of extra work I have to do just because of one stupid oversight. And this one is severe enough that, again, I hate to say it, but we could probably get away with it. So this shot is wrong. This shot is wrong because the woman has no sleeves. So this is really bad news for me, even though at the end of the day it'll probably take me 45 minutes to fix. But here's what's going on. No sleeves, sleeve, sleeves. This is an OMG moment. Sleeves, shorter sleeves, longer sleeves, and where's this shot? No sleeves. No sleeves. And the reason I did, and this is the reason that I find this really annoying, is because I'll tell you exactly what happened. If you guys go back a couple days and look at the pencil test, she had sleeves when I did this. And then I know what happened. What happened was I was double checking the costuming. I know exactly what happened. I was double checking the costuming and I looked at this shot. I know that's exactly what happened. I looked at this shot and oh, she doesn't have sleeves. Oh crap. And I actually took the sleeves out and then did all the ink and paint without the sleeves. Oh my goodness. How can you, okay, so Max has just said, Max, you know I'm kidding when I say the following, okay? Max just made the stupidest comment ever because he's telling me he loves my planning and execution skills, but yet everything I'm showing right now shows that I am the worst on the planet at planning and execution because look at what I've done here. This is horrible. Oh my goodness. This is terrible. I'm an idiot. Well, I'm an idiot with my heart in the right place. And I know, you know I'm kidding, Max. So this is a bit of a bummer. Not only do we need to add some sleeves here, but actually the sleeves are supposed to have, they're actually dual stripes. So what we really are supposed to have here, this is really bad because it needs to be redrawn. Okay. You would have a sleeve like, okay, I don't want to be using the Smart Raster paintbrush, and this needs to go back to 4. Okay, so what we need here is essentially clean that out a little bit. Okay, let's just fix this in a hurry. So I'm going to go G, F for fill tool, fill that in. I'm going to hit the V key, and this needs to be lines and areas. So what I'm doing now is I'm just going to erase over top of this. So you'll see, like I said, it might take more than 45 minutes to completely fix. But basically, it's not that big of a deal to fix. Okay, so I'm going to go like this. All right, and now what I'm going to do is go back over to this color, hit the V key in areas mode, and put that stripe in there. You can see there's a little hiccup there, so this should probably be lines and areas for the purposes of what I'm doing right now. And then I think what we need is like a blue stripe. So I'm going to just take a gamble and put that right there. And now let's go back and look at the earlier shot and see if I'm right. It seems to me there was a red and a blue stripe, and there it is. And I'm correct. Wow, I guessed right. I can't believe it. So, and she's also got, on her left arm, she's actually got this little medallion decoration too. So I'm going to get that in here. Right, right, yeah. Tom, well, again, that shows what an idiot I am because I'm like completely missing the sarcasm. So, sorry. Anyway, I'm going to, yeah, that sarcasm. I'm so so confident, so comfortable in my own skin that I literally don't realize it when people are being sarcastic with me. Pretty sad. Pretty sad there, Dave. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is, but that's okay, man. I deserve it. Let's use the V key again, methinks. Probably this should be back to 4. So yeah. I am a goof. But I won't give up. I keep persevering. Dude, just practice drawing cloth on top of limbs. Make it an exercise. Well, that's kind of what I'm doing. It's like you got to do it one way or the other. So, I think it may help to do a review for continuity. Do you think, Tom? Do you think? Before getting into full creative mode each time. Well, yeah, the process of planning and mapping things out definitely has been the best way I could describe it would be a more holistic process that fully takes into account all of the possible considerations would be important. Yeah, we had a situation on one movie where when you're paying actors, and now by Hollywood terms this is pretty low dollars, but for me when I was on a set, I'm probably spending between $100 and $200 an hour, right, for my actors, because all my budgets went to my actors. Well, when I'm paying that money, I tend to be really, really careful, right, and plan. And the only continuity problems we ever had, I mean, like literally the only continuity problems we ever had were when someone tried to keep something in their head and remember, which is kind of the mistake I've made here, versus referring back to the documentation, of things like props that were needed and things like that. So yeah, Tom's of course correct. And so Well, the world keeps on turning, and we are going to fix this up, baby. We are going to fix it up. All right, so here I will say I basically like this, and then I'm just going to kind of go like that. And then I'm going to hit the erase key. Let's zoom in here. Hit the erase. It looks like I'm only erasing lines. That's weird. This is set to lines and areas, but yet it didn't erase the area. Oh, it's because it's unselected. Duh. Okay. G key. Ah, okay. I forgot that little detail. That's interesting. Okay. Did I draw these lines with the Smart Raster paintbrush? Let's find out. Yeah, I think I did. Okay, so again, G key. Yeah, so Max is going, oh my gosh, this guy. This guy. He's an idiot. Yes, it's true. It's true! I'm a man of remarkable limitations. But as I said, the one thing I got going for me is I don't give up easily. Okay, this is going to be, well, I guess we'll leave it on lines and areas. So what you're saying about double checking continuity is absolutely true. It is something that needs to happen. Okay, so this is basically just above the elbow kind of thing. And there's areas where we have a little latitude. I mean, in this case, each of these cells is only on the screen for quite literally one frame. So truth is, we could get away with murder and no one would see it because everything's moving too fast. But if we can fix it, might as well fix it. Yeah, there's a lot to fix there, baby. Well, let's do it this way. Let's hit the B key. Let's go ahead and put the, I'm making sure now to use the brush so that these lines that I'm drawing are firmly ensconced in the art. And otherwise the fill operations aren't going to work. So, but to answer your question about how often I've drawn her, I would say kind of yes and no. I mean, I've drawn her enough, but one thing's for sure, it's been a while. Until the last couple days, I hadn't touched anything with this character in quite some time. So, anywho, I'm going to hit the G key now and the V key. We're in lines and areas mode, so now what we can do, should be able to do. Oh, I'm still in pencil mode, aren't I? Yep, I am. I really don't want it. Well, probably for what I'm doing now, I probably should be in pencil mode, come to think of it. So, hopefully this isn't too painful to watch. Hope it's not too painful, people. Okay. Well, actually, the cool thing about this stuff, yeah, spell check, same thing. Can you easily flip the footage, get that same effect as flipping the canvas when painting? Yes. Yes, you can do that. Sorry, I'm just listening to an audio, didn't notice that. Yes, you need the cloth to follow the movement of the arm. Drag a bit. I'm gonna leave that one alone for the moment. I'm gonna leave that one alone for a moment. Yes, Richard Williams does say the cloth is always late, and obviously, at the risk of stating the stupidly obvious, the cloth that's trailing is always late. In this case, yes, I'm being a little loosey-goosey on just letting it billow a bit because I'm pretty sure this is all snaking by so fast, and probably the animation of this cloth is not going to be a big factor in the success of the show. You know, he says at the risk of sounding a little snarky about it. N key. Yeah, I'm not gonna belabor the billowing of the cloth. Not for this. There are plenty of situations where I would, but this is not one of them. So we're gonna get this stripe in here. Excuse me for the sniffle. The sniffle. And obviously right there we saw that her other arm kinda came into play. Most unfortunate. So I'm kind of glad this happened though. And the reason I'm glad is because it's one of the things I've been learning about my own creative process. Okay, so now we're getting into that. Any advice for coming up with character design? Yeah, I'll give you this. So Smog911 saying any advice for coming up with character design? Yeah, do this. Identify some things around your house. Okay, your webcam, your computer's mouse, your tasty beverage cup, things like that have, here's a thumb drive. Okay, draw these objects and then fit a character into them. Now you could argue that, well, you're really just talking about drawing a trapezoid and a rectangle and a circle and a oval or an egg, or simple shapes, and then stuffing characters into that. But the conventional wisdom with characters, and you do see it here in this shot, frankly, is that Carliana has a very angular look to her. Everything's pointy and angular, and that's because like her cheekbones, her chin is not pointy, but it's pointier, than round, versus the old man who everything is round. So there are common associations that we have with shapes. So like square shapes seem to denote stability or strength. Round shapes are sympathetic and soft and cuddly and teddy bearish. Angular shapes are pointy and evil and mean. So in Jafar in Aladdin has a very angular sort of shape to him. Now we're talking about the features, so as well as the overall shape. So yeah, that would be my advice. If what I'm giving you is I'm giving you a very limited set of parameters, so that you're forced now to design within those limitations. Those limitations are the very, very best thing for your creativity. Okay, so give that a try, Smog911, and see how it goes. Okay, so back to work. Back to work, where we discover that there's even more that needs to be fixed. Well, this one should be easy. We should be able to hit the fill tool here. Actually, let me show you. Yeah, hit the fill tool and fix it there. This one, not so much. B key. All right. Now here, in order to satisfy max, I'm going to actually do this and make it drag behind just a little bit. Just because we can. Why not? Let's make it drag. Now here, let's look at this. Now see what happens here? We're at 8 frames a second, remember, okay? So this is a turning point moment, and the truth of the matter is, if you were going to talk about the billowing cloth, you've got a choice you got to make. Is the cloth dragging behind right now, or is it actually bouncing up and coming back because she's moving in the other direction? The fact is that you actually have both hidden in a single frame. So you have to make a choice. Tiny Salad said, I'm confused. What do you mean draw the character into random objects? Okay, I'll show that really quick. I'll do it over here in the on the spiral notebook. By the way, I never finished what I was saying about that, so I'll make this quick. When I actually do journaling, I literally do it oftentimes into a spiral notebook, and I mix and match black, red, and blue lead in my pencils, just like what you see here, because for me, it kind of makes it fun for me to, I kind of entertain myself by, you know, as I sort of work things out in my own head and stuff. So anyway, let me just address this for Tiny Salad. Okay, so what I said was I'll choose a thumb drive. Okay, so the thumb drive's basic shape is this, right? Okay, so it's this, and then it's got this coming out here. Okay? So we say, well, we're stuck with that now. We're stuck with it. It's a limitation. We have to work with it. Okay, well, what are we going to do? Well, most characters have eyes, so, well, let's just go ahead and put some eyes in here. But then let's say, let's keep some continuity going here. We got this curvature up here, so why don't we say his mouth is going to be kind of like this, right? And you could even bake that into his eyes as well, if you wanted to. You don't have to, but, you know, you could. Okay? Okay, so there we have a character design based on a thumb drive. All right, so now my tasty beverage cup over there looks basically like this. It's not exactly, there's some detail on the cover, but basically this is the cup. Okay? So now, and then by the way, one thing you're going to want to play with too, Smog 911, is do this. Like first of all, when you're dealing with eyes, start with circles. Make your life easy. Start with circles that represent the eye socket. Okay, so let's zoom in here. Zoom. Okay, so here's the eye socket, and now there's 100 different directions you could go with this, but one would be let the eye fit inside that socket like that. So the circles just give you a guide to where things are supposed to be, right? But also, and I can't really do it in my paint because there's really no cutting and pasting, so I have to go like this. But play around with how things look different. If you were to take those eyes and put them down here, you just move them up and down, right? Simple ovals, you know, this is like One Punch Man type eyes, right? Just simple ovals. And then you say, look at the difference in characterization here. If I go like put his mouth here versus put his mouth here, completely changes the way he looks, right? Okay, so now obviously we're, you know, this is just a character, so this could be a hat or a helmet or something, but you could just erase it and just say, well, this is basically just the shape of the guy, right? Or you could say, well, wait a second, let's just flip this upside down, and now, and we'll kind of just draw a guide here like this. Let's kind of, so we know where the centers are. I mean, frankly, if I was making a cartoon around this kind of stuff, my life would probably be easier. It'd be like a lot easier for me to do what I'm doing. I've sort of deliberately challenged myself to do something that's a little more complex and maybe difficult than some of the things one might do, but you know. Okay, and then maybe this guy has little ears, but maybe this guy has big ears. Just play with it, man. And at the end of the day, you can do the dance or the tug of war between two competing forces, which is on the one hand, satisfy yourself, draw stuff, you know, play with it and work with it until you're happy, until you think it looks good. That's very, very, very important. But at the same time, also consider copying other people's work so that you can sort of deconstruct maybe what they were thinking or how they solved problems or whatever, right? So this is obviously the cup flipped upside down. Hey, Ed. Right? So, good to see you, by the way, Ed. So another one would be my my webcam. So if I look at my webcam, it's essentially a cylinder, right? Okay, so I'm actually literally looking at the webcam right now. And now how would I turn this into a character? Well, I'm just going to keep it as simple as possible. Let me see. Give it a nose. And we'll throw the ears far back here. And then just for fun, what we'll do is we'll give it eyes like this. The sort of the G.D. Trudeau, Doonesbury type eyes. Right? And so now we've got this sort of downtrodden looking, sort of bummed out guy who, you know, just saw an infomercial where he's realized that he needs to, you know, go on a diet or something, right? Whatever. So, yeah, so these simple shapes, and what I was talking about angular is this. If I draw a triangle kind of thing, this is what I was talking about Jafar. Okay, so let's just play with this for a half second, right? So boom, 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 boom. Let's go real angular. If you want to keep it loose, draw whippy curves, right? Okay, so in other words, this could go this way or it could go this way. It doesn't matter. But when you draw these, at least for me, when I draw these whippy curves like this, I find it easier to find the character. It may not work that way for you. I don't know. I've never really compared notes with anybody on this point. But for me, this is a quite useful technique. So like his cheekbones, you could go like this, right? Or you could go like this. Or you could go like this. And all those choices give you a completely different look. And so it's just like play around with it, man, you know? Have fun. So this guy, and I'm going to say, let's take this guy a step further. We'll give him cat eyes. So everything's angular, right? And so if we want to really take the angular thing to its extreme, you know, you might have some crazy hair that's out like this and kind of pointy, almost like horns, like devil horns kind of thing or something. So these all become sort of symbolic devices that we can use to make it so that people at a glance can get a read on the characters, right? That would be kind of the gist of why you might do it that way. So again, here with his eyes, if I make a curve that's kind of concave instead of convex, it kind of gives him this squinty look or whatever, right? So that guy's turning into a bit of a mess, I must admit. But I think you get the idea. So. All right, I'm going to hit F12 and get back to work. Okay, so we are still doing fix-ups on Carliana. Because I, like a fool, fouled up her costuming. So, back to this question. So the question we had here was, is the cloth going to billow up or is it going to drag behind? And as I said, the answer is, it's both. But for my purposes, I'm just going to say, it doesn't really matter. I'm just going to pick one. Okay. Okay, stop. Actually, I changed my mind. I'm going to have the cloth billow behind, and here's why. Because basically on the very next frame, we're probably going to have a drag behind. So we'll go like that. So there we get the best of both worlds. Here it would drag behind a little. And there we go. And so we're done with that section of it as far as the getting the outlines in shape. Now what we got to do is go in and clean out the garbage. You must take out the garbage, people. If you don't, your house is going to begin to smell like a bloody sewer. That's what it's going to do. It's going to be all your fault. G key to sample this color, and I hope you guys don't mind me making stupid voices, but doggone it, it's fun. Oops, yep, that came out okay. Okay, so now what we need to do is grab that color, V key, areas mode, and let's just get these in. These, and then we'll come back and get the blue lines. And you will forgive me for my absolutely unforgivable boo-boo. of following up her costuming. So all these shots or cells, I guess you'd say, are they're on the screen for one frame. So honestly, you're probably not going to really notice. And by the way, she does not have the coin pendant thingy on her right. It's only on the left. So there we go. Let's render it, pop it into the show, and take a quick look. Let's jump over here. And hey, Ed, nice voicing. I like doing the Joker voice. Yeah, well, the Joker voice. I don't know which Joker voice you're talking about, but you might be talking about kind of a Nicholson kind of thing, but I really don't know. Or maybe I gotta think about, man, the Heath Ledger one. I actually would probably have to look at it for half a second, but man, he had a great characterization on the Joker. Well, and plus there's Mark Hamill. Yeah, the Hamill voice. I don't know. I have not. I've seen like little video things here and there of Hamill talking about doing the Joker. I don't know that I've ever actually heard Mark Hamill's Joker. You guys, would this be an interesting exercise? Really quick, right here live on YouTube. This would be Mark Hamill Joker. I literally have no idea what is.
You draw from all different elements. I was doing Claude
So
Rains from The Invisible Man. Crazy? You think I'm crazy? I'll show you who's crazy.
Was that Joker? So, help me out, Ed. Was that it right there?
Was that it? I don't know what that voice was, but it sounded something like this.
I would have to listen to it a few times, but yeah, Hamill's pretty amazing actually, in the sense that if you listen to his normal, you know, Luke Skywalker just like talking voice, he doesn't sound like a guy that's got a particularly great voice, but he really did a good job with, I mean, his bandwidth. Actually, his bandwidth in pitch as well. I think he can get fairly low. Fairly low. You know, and I assume he can probably get really high too if he had to. You know, there's all these voices that we want to do, and you know, this is what we do. This is what we do. And you see how I'm acting really strange and really frenetic? Well, that's because when you're doing voice acting, this is what you do. You get into the character. And so, when, yeah, it's manic.
Yeah, this voice sounds like it was something like this.
So I've only ever heard it just the one time, so I don't know if I'm nailing it, but yeah, it's pretty cool. I think voice acting's a beautiful, fun, cool thing. So anyway, back to work here. So we got that. So this one's fixed. No, it's not. We forgot about the coins. I'm sorry, my bad. So we got to get the this decoration right there. We got to get that in there. That's only going to take about, oh geez, couple of minutes. Couple of minutes is all it's going to take. I'm not going to let it get me down. I'm not going to let it get me down. I'm going to be like Ed Tadeo. I'm going to commit myself to quality above all other considerations. Quality, my friends. Well, of course, now you get into a debate of what constitutes quality, but I think you guys take my meaning. I'm trying not to chimp out here, folks. Trying to do my job well. Okay, so here what we would see is, we would actually see the coins. This is, again, an example that no one will ever notice in the actual show. But right here, I'm going to flatten the coin out against her arm because her arm's swinging back this way. Here, we'll kind of split the difference. You know, as long as we're here, we might as well have fun with the animation aspect of it, right? Dun, 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 dun. We might as well have fun. Now here, we're cutting away. I think I've already established that this frame never actually makes it into the show. So it's been edited out. But just for continuity, you know what we're going to do? We're going to put it in there. I don't care what you say. We're going to put it in there, right? And you're not going to say a word about it. That's what you're going to do. You're not going to say a word about it. Whoa. Oh, I hit the wrong key. That's rather embarrassing. All right. Boom, 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 boom. So, Max, I was talking to you, Max. You're not going to say a word about it, fella. You're not going to say a word.
If you do, we know where you live.
Actually, we don't. We don't know where Max lives. Statistically, Max is somewhere in the Middle East. And the reason I say that, I don't know or even believe that that's true, but one thing I've noticed, it's really surprised me how the percentage of subscribers to my YouTube channel who are from the Middle East is really kind of high. I have no idea why. Not a clue why. Val said, well, maybe it's because this show actually takes place in the Middle East. I'm like, well, I never thought of that. That never occurred to me. He has so many voices all close to each other like the Joker. Yeah, that's what I don't want to do. Right? I want to have a, you know, the other night I need to finish it, but I was writing a song, and I was writing a song where the song would be sung by somebody who's from the southern part of the United States, someone who you might call a hillbilly, and that hillbilly kind of person just loves Doritos. And the last line of the song, the last line of the chorus was, it's tasty, 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 tasty food. And it was so stupid that I was literally making myself laugh at just the stupidity of this song. You know, I was having, you know, I guess creative people like me, this is what we think about. This is what we do. At least, in truth, it is true when we do let go. You guys are kind of seeing this in real time. I mean, I'm being a little more free with my creative self in terms of like these voices and, you know, just sort of who I really am as a person. I'm being a little more free with myself than I used to be, and I'm happy with that. I'm enjoying not trying to curate how I present as much as I used to. You're getting a more authentic picture of who I really am. And I think it's cool. I think it's been... Oops, that's not what I meant to do. And by the way, so this is what it's going to look like when it's done, by the way. For those of you who are wondering or keeping score. You know, Ed, if you're still here, I actually, I've kind of been following your methodology a little more lately. I've been doing quite a lot more frame-by-frame animation, and actually kind of channeling Alex Toth in my approach to the ink, and I really have been liking the results. So I guess you've inspired me a little bit on the terms of doing more of what you see here, just more frame-by-frame animation. I like the results. I like the way things are looking. Shoo, pow, you know? So, kudos to Ed for being a source of inspiration to all of us, because he is a very talented young man. Let's see here. What do we need to do? We got this. Oh, yeah. There's the problem. So I need to take this off of cropping to the camera. Let's sample F key, or I'm sorry, G key to sample that palette entry. So yeah, it's color number 3, and fill tool. Yep. So I got to get this skin covered up again. And obviously the one shot, you know, the shot I looked at that led me down the primrose path of actually doing her costuming wrong, obviously that shot's got to be redone as well. So yeah, not like I don't have plenty of work to do here. Now this is her right arm, which means there is no coin pendant thing. That was her left. Yeah, Alex Toth is cool. Well, Alex Toth, if you guys don't know who Alex Toth is, Ed spelled his name correctly, so you can Google him. But Ed was Alex Toth, who is no longer with us, was pretty instrumental on Johnny Quest as a creative consultant and/or dealing with the stuff related to the animation or probably the character designs as well, I would think, but I don't know that to be true. But interesting guy and a little bit of a controversial guy, but minimalist. You know, Alex Toth was a minimalist, I would say. He really, if you're like I was, so when I was in high school, I did not like Alex Toth. I became only familiar with him at all because I looked at a Savage Sword of Conan magazine, which was a black and white large format magazine Marvel published back then. It was Conan. And in the back, there was like a pinup drawing, and there was one that Alex Toth did. It was the first time I ever heard of the guy. And it was so simplified and so different from what you saw if you look at, you know, what John Buscema was doing with Conan. I didn't like it. Today, I like it a lot. My attitude towards Toth has changed considerably because I really have gained a respect for that minimalist, just the economy that is absolutely critical if you're going to do a cartoon. You know, if you're going to animate, it's a whole different beast in terms of, you know, you've got to have some economy in your designs. Every frame can't be a painting, you know. Okay, so yeah, we got the same problem here, unfortunately. Let's have a little more fun with this one. Let's actually pretend almost that this sleeve is more loosey-goosey than it actually is. This is only on the screen for one frame, so we can get away with it. I'm going to just cheat a little bit. And then I need to obviously break that open right there. Let's go ahead and see what else we have here. So yeah, we're going to have to break this. But yeah, Alex Toth was, man, economy. Super talented guy. Okay, and I guess what we'll do here is, again, billow out a little bit, and then just take the old E key and erase that out. We'll deal with the color here in half sec. Okay, yeah, and then here's same stupid problem. Man, you guys, I really, I just, when I referenced her costuming, I looked at the one frame that was actually already wrong. And that's what I copied when I was doing the we got a glitch. We've got a glitch here, people. B key. So I want to make sure I don't think I was using the Smart Raster Paintbrush 2, but okay, looking at the Again, I know this looks really rough, guys, but also bear in mind this is literally on the screen one frame. We have a lot of latitude. Just to make my life easier, I think what I'm going to do is, instead of fighting with this, I'm just going to sample that palette entry so that I can go in here and I'll just do a quick hand painting job so I don't have to, yeah, see, because look what keeps happening. So it's not even worth like talking about what's going wrong there. I don't think it matters. I'm just going to say, let's just kind of do this as a quick hand paint job and be happy with it. Happy, I say. Let's be happy. Let's be very, very happy with what we're doing. All right, you think it'll fill now? Let's find out. Ah, it filled. Okay, so obviously we got a little problem down here. Lines and areas. Let's just color. Okay. And I guess we could do the same thing here. A little hand painting. No big deal. Again, this is on the screen for one frame. We're not going to remember all the little flaws in it. This one, not so much. This one, we need to be a little more careful, because this one's going to sit on the screen for about 2/3 of a second. Actually, almost a full second, as a matter of fact. So there are times when you need to be really meticulous, and there's times when it really doesn't matter. By the way, I want that to be back on overall. It is set in pencil mode. Okay, so now let's go up here. And now we're going to go through one frame at a time, and we're going to see. And by the way, I know she looks way off character here. That's deliberate. I wanted her eyes to look kind of wide-eyed and Again, it's only on the screen for 1 frame. This is on character pretty well. So here, we're good. We're good. We got the decorations on our... Okay, so here we've got to put them on the sleeve. Again, we're cheating like the dickens by... You know, this sleeve was pretty tight on our arm, but yet for this 1 frame, we're making it loose.
Why would you do that, Dave? Why would you do that?
Because it's fun? Because it doesn't matter? That's why. Okay, so there we go. Okay, I think we got it. What did I say? I think at the beginning I said it would take 45 minutes to fix this, and I think it's taken just about that much. So, which is kind of funny. Okay, we're gonna have to do a little bit with the backgrounds, and now I'm if Ed's still here, I'm like super intimidated because I will guarantee you guys that if you want to know, I say this very seriously. I'm not kissing up here, okay? Not kissing up. But the fact of the matter is, I will guarantee there's nobody watching this live stream who's better at painting backgrounds than that guy right there, Ed Tadeo. He's a good animator. He does some good stuff with Krita, but I'll tell you what, he is really good at painting backgrounds. Not to take anything away from the animation or any of the rest, but I love the background work Ed does. Okay, so and this background, we're kind of getting away with it. It is going to be defocused a bit, and frankly, in this case, it was kind of important that we not deviate too much from the aesthetic of the surrounding content. Okay, so to be clear, I'm going to go ahead and add a blur here, and that blur just did not get inserted. Sorry, blur. Okay, so now that's obviously way, way, way too extreme. But what I'm trying to do is basically just smooth out. I'm switching it to 10 pixels. The default is like 40. That doesn't really work, does it? Nope. Okay, so let me... okay, so we have a problem that I'm not going to try to solve right now because it would be a total interruption of the current process. But here's the deal. If you're wondering what the heck's gone wrong here. What's gone wrong here is that we really need the in focus sort of detail on the ground, but yet the skyline and arguably the sky I want to have a little out of focus, and there's no good way really to do that unless we get into masking and all kinds of crazy stuff in the schematic. It would be much, much more efficient to just deal with it in Krita. So actually, now that I say that, that would not take very long. So I'm going to do that. And so let's just open Krita and deal with this in the most cheeseball way imaginable. You guys aren't going to even believe how I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this in the absolute most unexpectedly goofy way there is, which is what I'm going to do. We know that we can cut and paste from Krita into Tahoma2D, which is great, but cutting and pasting back doesn't really work so well. So let's do this. Let's do our view. We will toggle maximize panel, and we'll toggle full screen mode. So I'm going to go full screen mode, maximize the panel, and now I'm going to hit the N key. So this is, in fact, literally the actual size of the final painting. It's broadcast HD. I am going to print screen. Yep. I know. You're going, wait, Dave, no. You're not going to do that, are you? Yep. Oops, that's not what I meant to do. I am literally going to print screen. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a new file. I'm not going to cut it from the clipboard. I'm going to do my default. Okay, well, that's obnoxious. Where's my... If the template has disappeared, that would be like pretty normal behavior for Krita. Okay, so there's my template, and now I'm going to go Control V and looky. All right, so now I'll hit the A key to just make a little adjustment here. Up the top. And yeah, that's what I'm going to do. So now all I did was just cut and pasted. And so now it's going to be easy to fix. I'm going to go ahead and add a second. I'm sorry, that's not what I meant to do. I'm going to make a duplicate layer. So boom, let's duplicate it. And then all we need to do here, actually before we duplicate it, let's do this. Let's grab this layer. I want to get rid of all the pixel garbage. I'm not worried about this little hiccup at the bottom. Okay, we'll fix that shortly. But the first thing I want to do is image, trim to current layer. Or no, let's trim it to image size. Okay, so now let's duplicate this layer. And then what we're going to do is we're going to take the G key, which is the freehand path tool, hit the E key, which puts it in erase mode. And what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to just grab all this stuff down here. And now it looks like nothing happened, but actually here's what happened. We got rid of all that. And now what we can do is hit the blur filter, frankly. And 3 pixels just ain't going to cut it. Although you could do 3 pixels and then you hit Control F. And you can keep repeating the filter, which allows you to really dial it in, actually. Okay, but as long as we're here, what did I just do? Oh, I see. I moved it down. Sorry. I think I inadvertently hit a hotkey that I didn't mean to hit. But so let me solo that layer. Okay. Yeah, so that is probably, I think what I'll do is do some better clouds, and then we'll go ahead and redo the filtering a little bit. So, B key, cloud brush, seems to work pretty well most of the time. I'm going to put it on another layer so that I can just make them white, like so. And I'm actually going to turn the opacity down so I can kind of dial these in a little bit better. I do want to have a little bit of a sense that, you know, it's a bit of a cloudy moment because Carliana is kind of bad, you know. So there we go. And not sure I'm totally loving what I did there. So I think I'm going to go like this, hit Control E and bake it down and actually do it again. Just add a little bit better quality. Yeah, that's looking better. I'm going to hit the N key so I see this at actual size. Yep, just want to dial in a little bit nicer feel on those clouds. Okay, there we go. And again, Control E to bake it down. And then what I'm going to do is actually hit Control F to go ahead and rerun the filter, the blur again. So now what I'm doing is I'm blurring the clouds, but obviously the skyline in the background is getting blurred even more. And as you can see, it's blending in pretty nicely to the foreground. So for a somewhat cartoony background, this worked pretty well. And while we're in Krita, let me do a couple things to make everything work a little better. Probably I want to have, I guess we could use our brush. I'm hitting shift drag. This is something I mentioned today that I wish we could do in Tahoma, is just shift drag to change brush sizes. But I'm just going to fill that in. And then what I'm going to do, we'll see if it works, but I'm going to add another layer, and then I'm going to use this foliage brush to just smack a little bit in the corners. Like that. Just a little, come on, just a little bit. Little bit of something. Okay. Now, if I want to cut and paste this back into Tahoma, here's how I do it. I grab all these layers and I hit the Control G, which puts them in a group. And now I can select all and hit Control C, and actually the entire painting composited will get cut and pasted into Tahoma. So now we can come back over here, hit the S key, and hit Control V. There we go. Just paste it in the new background painting, and frankly, I can see what the main problem here is, which is that the old man actually needs to be defocused a little bit too. So that's no big deal. Let's just do it. F3 key. He is column 3, and this is going to be way too much of a blur. Whoa, he just disappeared. So what software do you use for animation, Ed, today? Ed uses what I use over here, Krita. So Ed's a Krita man. He is, as far as I'm concerned, the premier guy on YouTube that animates with Krita. I would have said, um, at the risk of putting myself in his class to a degree, I probably would have said, I think that Ed and I may be the only. I have not found anybody other than Ed and me that are doing um, very much animation with Krita. There's little bits here and there you can find on YouTube, but not a lot. Not a lot. I used to use Krita constantly, and lately I use it more as an adjunct to Tahoma and OpenToonz. It's kind of funny. When I started this show, I was actually using OpenToonz for everything. And then I went through a period where I was using Krita more. I went through the period I'm working on right now where I'm redoing stuff from episode 1. Actually, a lot of the stuff through this section of the show, probably this area right here, was done in Blender. So there's quite a lot of, techniques kind of woven throughout the historical progress of the show. But I'm going to go ahead and render this and then go look at the edit and just kind of see how things are feeling over yonder. Over yonder. So let's go here. Yeah. This is what I'm looking for. Let's just look and see. And I think what we're going to discover. Oh, yeah. See that? That looked pretty good. It all goes by very quick. I re-edited it so that that's what you get. So that if you look at this again, like we've talked about the last couple days, if we look at this in isolation, you could find some things to criticize. Definitely. Everybody wants to animate, but nobody wants to draw frame by frame. Yeah, and there's good reasons for that. I mean, if we look at this, like here we've got TNR animated frame by frame. Okay, she doesn't move much, obviously. This is frame by frame, although, actually, to be accurate, that is done with the plastic tool. I hate to admit it, but that is actually the plastic tool. If I was wanting to do this right here in Krita, I want to call it, anybody who's going to explore animating with Krita, I want to call your attention to the Liquify tool because it's really, really useful. So let's make our life real easy by going to let's go here. Okay, so I'm not going to be meticulous about this. I'm just going to zip it up like this, and I'm going to hit Alt Print Screen again just because it makes it simple. So I know we're going to cut and paste this stuff into Krita, and it's going to have the little marks in it from the the little pink marks and stuff. We don't care about that right now. Okay, so what I'm going to do is crop this because this is purely for demonstration purposes. So I'm going to crop it like that. Okay, and then probably the way to get rid of that blue in the background is to actually use, where the heck is it? I don't remember. It's been a while. Can't remember if it's a filter or if it's in the image processing, but it's to make, I guess it's here, color. Nope, it's not in color. Darn it. Ed, help me out. Where is the effect that converts a color to alpha? Color to alpha. Or I may be looking straight at it and not seeing it. Okay, well, we'll skip that and do it this way instead. Let's just use the magic wand. Oh, growl. Well, that's why I didn't want to do it this way. Okay, I'm going to ignore the background color because it's not worth thinking around with. No idea, Ed. What good are you here, dude? That's funny. Well, and you got to give Ed credit because I like the way Ed is basically like, I just do things the way I do them in Krita, and I don't like have this exhaustive encyclopedic knowledge of all the tools. I just do my things my way kind of thing. And I totally agree with that. approach. But yeah, there's there is a an effect. I thought it was adjust. I believe it is called color to alpha. And you would think it would be under, there it is. I was looking straight at it. I'm sorry. So you go color to alpha, and what you do is you say, you turn this threshold down, and the color picker, I think we can do it this way. Okay, so you pick a color, and then it really does quite a good job of letting you dial in the tolerance of it so that you can turn any color to alpha. Now in this case, we've got a little bit of a bleed between the blue background color and the color of her hoodie. However, what we can do is go ahead and do color to alpha like that, and then Control M, and then what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to do a curve operation on the alpha channel. Okay, and what that's going to do is it's going to tighten up and let me dial in the stuff that I want to have be transparent versus the stuff I don't. Just by upping the contrast, you might say. But yeah, in this case, it's I've kind of given myself a tough situation because of the closeness of the background color to the color of her headdress. But anyway, what I was initially going to show you was this. You hit the A key, which lets you move things around. Okay, so it's a free transform tool. But then if you right mouse click, you got this thing right here called Liquify. And what the Liquify tool does for you is it lets you kind of make these sort of fine tuning changes. And really, if you hit shift and drag, you can make the brush smaller, and you can really dial in your characters. Okay, now there is a cost you pay for that. You'll get a little bit of a blurring of your pixels, especially if you do it multiple times in a row. But what I was going to point out about that is that the Liquify tool has these subsettings, and one of them that's quite useful is the rotational setting. So let me zoom out here and then make my brush large. And then I'm going to add an animation keyframe. So Control Insert. And then, so this is as close as you can get in Krita to what you can do with the plastic tool in OpenToonz or Tahoma. Okay, thank you. God darn it. Jeez, you guys. Oh my gosh, you guys. I'm sitting here going and talking, and I've done this so many times. Forgive me, guys. Okay, I can recap in a hurry. In order to get rid of the background, what I did was I went to Filter, Colors, Color to Alpha. And then you select a color and you can dial in the threshold of it. Okay, that's basically all I did. Except I added a curves operation, Control M. And what I'm going to do a curves operation on is the alpha channel, the transparency layer. And then all I did was up the contrast, basically like that. So again, sorry about that, you guys. All right, so what I'm showing here is you hit the A key, and now the free transform tool has a lot of choices and options that you can play around with. The one I use the most is Liquify. And again, what that does is it lets you basically fix stuff, right? So in this case, I'm kind of going to follow this through a little bit and make her eyebrows go down while her corners of her eyes go up, and maybe a little bit of a snitchy look on her nose. Okay? Alright, and I can make this a little bigger so it's really pushing together. And then look what happens. See that? Look at that change in attitude. And then the thing I actually came here to show you was that in addition to that, okay, you wait half a second here, and then put this in rotation mode. And then generally, you're probably going to want it to be pretty big, but look what happens if we do a rotation. Okay, so I'm going to go forward another frame. Like that. And so you can see that you can sort of work these little attitudes into your characters. Again, at a little bit of a cost. You can see that the pixels are slightly blurred from this operation, but what you can do about that, what I've found is if you do It would be enhance, unsharp mask. Do a very, very gentle unsharp mask. That's too much. So that's probably not too bad. So just a little tiny bit of sharpening. And hit Control F to apply the same filter again. And, you know, again, you have to play with it. That's not perfect, but it's close, right? So you can sort of recover the sharpness back from that. So in this case, I'm going to switch my my frame rate to, let's go to 12 frames per second, and then maybe do 18 frames. I'm doing that on the other screen. So, but that's the, so there's your animation, right? So now that's pretty good. I mean, that's a lot of animation horsepower achieved pretty economically, right? By just smushing pixels around, and that's what you can do in Krita. But you have to do it all by hand, and you know, in Ed's case, he's gonna more likely he's gonna be drawing every single one of those individual images. Neither way is right or wrong, but it does give a little different result. It gives a little different result. So I would argue probably that Ed's methodology gives a look that's closer to traditional Japanese anime, because that's what they tend to do, is literally because they do it on paper, you know, so they have to draw every frame. That's probably changing now, I would guess, with the advent of more and more adoption of digital tools, and I believe that Clip Studio Paint is getting more of a foothold in Japan. So anyway, okay, so there's Amar. Hey, Amar, the interpolation for auto breakdowns. The interpolation for auto breakdowns and in-betweens has gotten way better in Blender as well. And Ashnan's asking, what computer are you using? Well, I mean, it's a computer I had built for me about, it's actually about 8 or 9 years old. But I've edited several movies on it. It's like a 12 core. It's got 12 cores, 32 gigabytes of memory. I mean, it's pretty. If I wanted to, right? Well, exactly, Ed. Great point. And that's what I've been doing more of too. Actually, you're seeing it more on this shot. Is I'm just going ahead and drawing it and saying, you know what, it's going to take me a little more time, but I like the way things are looking. And I'll try to remember not to stay on this screen, but when I did this shot the other day, which one was it? I remember when I did this shot, I was really thinking about that. I was thinking, you know, what would Ed do, kind of thing. I mean, I'm not joking. I really kind of thought that, and I'm like, you know what? I'm just gonna do it this way, and I really think this shot got improved in a big way by just going ahead and doing everything as frame by frame animation. So, but again, there's no right answer. You know, the economies of it obviously factor into those decisions to a degree. So hang on half a second, guys. Somebody's knocking at the door. Hang on. Give me 1 minute. Oh, that was Kyle coming in. And he just said, hello, live stream. Okay, so I got to see where I'm at here. I've been live streaming for... I like drawing them as well eventually. Yeah, the whole thing about interpolation, I'm not sure about that one. I mean, I'm sure it's always improving in Blender, but I mean, I've found the keyframe interpolation, at least as far as the algorithms and the types of like curves and the ability to do looping and obviously setting up drivers and things like that, has been pretty complete for quite a long time. So I'm not sure what the latest and greatest is with Blender as far as that goes. I like drawing them as well. How I increase my speed for doing comics as well. Once I'm able to do 1 minute or so of animation in a month, I'll be able to get through creating my comic books way faster. Well, you just keep doing what you're doing, Amar. You just keep rocking, buddy. Looking forward to seeing it. Okay, we've got her costuming fixed, and so forgive me for being a little bit frazzle-brained here. Okay, so yeah, what we need to do is we need to touch up this background painting. This does need to be simple. Arguably, gosh, you know what? Arguably, what we could do is the same thing we did a minute ago. Let me see here. Did I? That's my paint. That's my to-do list. Yeah, I didn't keep it around. So, oh wait, yes I did. Yeah. So why don't we do this? I'm gonna hit Control E and bake this down to. Actually, strike that Z key. I'm not gonna bake this down. That's a bad idea. The fact of the matter is that if we take this and actually give it a little bit of a filter too, okay, which by the way, goofball that I am, I actually forgot that my last filter was a sharpening filter, not a blur filter. Okay, so I'm going to go VVV. Oh, come on. Really, dudes? I meant to hit Control F, and I hit the wrong key. I hit the wrong key, people. Forgive me. Forgive me. All right, I'm going to hit Control C. And we'll see if I have to do this twice. But I think what I'm going to do is I am going to go into this painting. And I'm going to hit S key, Control V. And then what I'm going to do is I'm literally going to just do it as a blow up. I'm going to just do it as a blow up. Come on. And let's hop over here and see. Yeah, because it's all got to be out of focus anyway. So, do we see a problem here? I mean, I think I'm okay with this, doing it this way. And then here we need to put some doggone clouds in the background. Don't we? And boy, I tell you guys, there's no better place to do clouds. Alt print screen, then Krita. So that's what we're going to do. So I'm going to go over here, and I'm going to actually create a new document. And again, this is what I always complain about with Krita, is it never remembers anything. It remembers everything. It remembers some things, but some things that are really important, it really does a bad job of remembering your settings. But anyway, okay, so now I'm going to hit Control V. So we've got this layer, so I can hit the Control key and just sample that color. Kill that, hit the F key fill tool, put that in there, and then we're going to add another layer, go straight white, B key. I'm going to use this, whoops, I'm going to use the same cloud brush I used before. I do want my opacity to be about halfway. And by the way, just for framing purposes, yeah, she's going to be... So yeah, if we want the clouds to be seen, that was not what I intended. I seem to be having a bit of a problem with hitting keys that I don't mean to hit today. Okay, so I'm going to... Yeah, that's a little extreme. That's a little extreme, people. Ba-da-bum. Boom. Okay, now we're gonna group them. Control G to put them in a group so that I can select the whole thing. Control A, Control C. Paste this into Tahoma. Well, yeah, Hanna-Barbera. That's some classic stuff, dude. I remember reading Bill Hanna's biography. Okay, so I see a little problem. Those clouds, the contrast is way too high. So let's jump this down a bit. And by the way, since you're here, Ed, I assume you still are. If you have any thoughts or tips on background painting, you know, color, contrast, composition, whatever, feel free to weigh in with comments, because I kid you not, guys, if you want to learn to do background paintings, you know, this guy knows how to do background painting better than anybody I know. So make no mistake. Whoops, that's not what I meant to do. Control C, go back here. It's a little obnoxious to have to keep jumping back and forth, but that's better. That's better. That's all I wanted. All right, so I'm just going to hit Control Shift R and render the darn thing, and then come back over here, and we should be able to review our work and see how things are going. Oh yeah, see that all looks fine. That shot needs to be fixed because she doesn't have her clothes proper.
She doesn't have her clothes proper. Ain't right on the clothes. The characterization's a little off here. There's too many things to fix. By gum and by golly.
Learn to do it with real paint. That is, yeah, that's true. That is true. Learn to do it with real paint. Well, there is one shot in this show that was done with real paint. In episode 2, where there's actually a watercolor painting that I used for a background painting. It's a fun exercise. Okay, so we don't want to get too far off track here. Well, all I can say, Amar, is what I already said. Look at Ed's channel. I'm sure you have, but Ed does a really good job on, if you want to talk about organic stuff, like on his, my neighbor, what is it, Totoro or whatever, the the skies, the clouds, greenery, forest, grass. I can't remember what I've seen on Ed's channel that involved interiors with, dresser drawers and beds and, things that are very manufactured that have to have sharp edges, but I'm sure it's there. But yeah, I mean, so to my eyes, most of the backgrounds I've seen on Ed's stuff sits in the mix just fine with any anime that you're going to go watch. I mean, now Ed's going, he's over there going, oh, come on, oh, come on, But no, it really is good work that he does. And so I'm just saying that because, he's here, and it's like you guys should definitely be subscribed to his channel and learn from the guy. Okay, cool, good, excellent. Golden Slime, in background painting, my problem is perspective. When I draw backgrounds, all look flat. Yeah, and there's really no substitute for that other than I'll give you a quick. I'm not the best at it, and actually this part of the shot shows it. But for the purpose of discussion, let's go ahead and play here for half a second. So basically, this was in the pencil test. I had a layer that I used for perspective, but the basic rule is this. The horizon line in perspective actually represents you as the viewer. So this horizon line is the camera. In other words, if I'm standing here looking at the situation, this represents me, what I'm seeing. This is literally the level of my eyes. Okay? Now, what am I looking at? Well, I'm basically looking here, and then if I remember correctly, I kind of mapped it out so that her perspective, she kind of goes over here in perspective. Now the flaw here is that if I followed this through and kept her walking, it's the reason in the edit I cut this last frame out, because I determined that if she keeps getting smaller according to this perspective, by the time she gets close enough to the guy, she would in fact be I think he would actually look like a giant. He's actually really, really big. I was able to sort of hide that flaw by just cutting away from it sooner. So I basically only put up to here in the show and didn't, give away the flaw, right? But the thing with perspective is, let me think about how to describe this. If we go back to the top here, we know that when she gets over to here, her actual size would be, she's going to be down to her hips. Okay, so her hips would basically be here because you can see that line is where her hips are. So let me just check that. Yeah, that's about right. Okay, so she would be standing like this, okay, so if you really did this, what that would mean is that her feet are down here. And so actually the flaw here isn't so much the scale as the fact that he really belongs down here probably. He would really be sitting here. So I didn't do a good job of following through the perspective there correctly. And there are things that you want to trick a little bit, because the reality is it could be that if you made this more correct, so I'm going to hit the A key and actually move this guy down where he really probably should be. It might turn out that for the part of the shot that I left in the show, it actually looks a little strange, and it does. It does. So in other words, if we follow the perspective through, it works with the guy in the different position, and if we don't follow it through, it doesn't work. And the reason for that is what I said at the beginning of the live stream today, which is that actually the way I mapped this out, effectively I have a different camera lens length on the woman versus on the guy. So it'd almost be like he was shot with a 50 millimeter lens, and she's being shot with like a 24 millimeter lens. So the way that really would be fixed would be in the initial shot, she would actually probably be truthfully, she probably would be like this. She'd be really occluding the front of the screen, right? And that's why I said that essentially he's kind of a giant. So I don't know if that really helps as far as learning perspective, but probably doesn't. So I hope I haven't wrecked anyone's day by stepping outside my wheelhouse. But let me see here. I want to go to the scene cast and clean things up a bit and save my work. Save all. Okay, we've been live streaming almost 2 hours. The marks on the near right background make it look like the path is lower than the ground where the man is sitting. Yeah, I think that the great takeaway here at the moment is that for the purpose of the way I decided to play it, I'm literally doing it by feel. And by feel, and just kind of based on the rule of thirds, I feel like I can get away with something like that. But the reality is he's huge. If you leave this drawing in there, and by the way, we can fix that. I mean, I can actually fix that by just taking this drawing of her and making her a little bigger. I don't know if that's going to work, but it probably helps a little bit. Doesn't really matter since this was already cut out of the show, this one frame. But yeah, that feels better. The other problem I identified yesterday is that if she kept walking on the path she's walking, she would kind of walk right past him. She would kind of be going this way. So, yeah. Oh, hey, yeah. See you next time, Ed. So, yeah. So there are definitely flaws, and part of my job becomes hiding the occasional mistakes, frankly. But yeah, what I just did actually helped it kind of a lot to be more passable. The other thing you could obviously complain about is that his head is looking down here, but then his head is looking up here. Nobody's flagged that. It's something I noticed yesterday. From the standpoint of staging, since we're kind of looking at this with a microscope, let's go ahead and do that. If you look at it from a staging standpoint, she would kind of be walking past the guy, but that's not ridiculous to think that she might get to here. And if she did get to there, her motion here actually makes sense. So she would be walking up to him and then turning right, but we never see her turn right in the show, but that doesn't matter. But she would actually come over here and then turn and face the guy. So this brings up a really important point that I had forgotten about. We've got this shadow layer here. Well, when we get here, we need another shadow layer. And I had forgotten about this, so I want to do this right now. I'm going to add a vector level, and we're going to make this really, really simple. This is a really important step I'm about to do that I had intended to do and I had forgotten about. So let's look at the whole sequence of the old man. Okay, so there he is. So this runs to here. Now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to hit the B key and I'm just going to draw a shape. Okay? And it's a stupid looking shape. That doesn't matter. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to animate this off the screen. And then here I'm going to animate it so it's basically covering him up mostly. Okay? Now what we're going to do is we're going to go into the schematic, into the effects schematic, and we're looking at column 6, which I think is probably right here, and column 5. And what we're going to do is we're going to, I have to remember, but I think it would be matte in. The source would be the old man. Well, no, the matte would be the old man. So the matte is the old man. The source would be this, and then I think that's correct. Yes. Is that correct? Or is it matte out? That did not work. When I've done this in the past, I usually use multiply, INO. So let's just play with this. Let's reverse these and see. I always forget which it is. So I know that sounds crazy, but I don't actually do this very often. Okay, so it seems to me that the man is the matte, and then the shadow is what we're clamping to the matte. So we're seeing the render cache sort of re-rendering here. And by the way, it looks like this is probably important, that be. Yeah, we've introduced a problem here. I'm gonna go back to what I know because I don't want to sit here and struggle with it for a long time. So I'm gonna replace the effects, layer blending INO, and we're gonna go multiply INO right there. Okay, and by default that puts it in clipping mask mode. So now what I'm trying to figure out is column 4. Oh, I see what I did wrong. I am stupid. I'm sitting here taking stupidity to the next level because this is literally the wrong layer. I'm sorry guys, how stupid can you get? Okay. Column 4 is where the old man is. I would probably be smart to actually just move this to a different level. But let's hang in there. So I am going to, okay, now that is now finally working properly. And then this needs to go into there, if I am correct. So let me see if this is working. Yep. Okay, and then this just needs to have the opacity dialed down. And gosh, frankly, I think that this should be blurred too. Not much though. Let's just do a blur of about probably 6 pixels. Nope, even more. Let's do 12. Yeah, that's not too bad. Okay, so now when it renders, you're going to see her shadow crawl across him, right? So you're kind of seeing the memory buffers sort of caching at the moment, which can be a little bit disconcerting because you think things aren't working when they actually are. So the opacity, I think, let's turn this down maybe to about 15 or so, or 15%. Okay. Yeah, I had intended to do that and basically forgotten all about it. So let's render it. Let's pop it into the show and see what we've got. Yep, some slight blur. Hey, Darren.
Welcome to the party, my friend. Welcome to the party.
So let's just, I'm actually a little behind here, or I should say ahead actually of myself. Do. Yeah, see, that works. That works. That works. Let's just... So there was one thing I noticed here. Insofar as the... Oh, I see what I did. Yes, I've got shadows on that sequence. Ah, really, it's just this last frame. I've got some shadows that are a holdover from when the sleeves were cut off. So let's just jump over here and fix that right this minute, people. I think it'd be right there. Yeah. And so I'm going to do this this way. I'm going to hit the S key to select and delete. Select and delete. That's it. File, save all. So we'll give that half a second to save. It does seem like Tahoma2D is saving quicker today. I would not have any idea why that would be the case. By the way, the Audacity temp folders were on the wrong drive, and so you were going to run out if you went into the next recording. So I stopped. Once it got through those two, I stopped it and restarted it, and also changed the temp folder, so you're good to go. Just bringing my beautiful wife up to date on a few technical details.
There she goes in the background.
As I said yesterday, isn't she lovely? Isn't she wonderful? Okay, have we finally got this shot done? Let me look at my agenda here. Costume, necklace. Oh, the necklace. Gosh, you guys, every time I think I'm done, it turns out I'm not. But that's okay. Let's do this. Let's do this thing, baby. Now, I'm going to do this. It's going to look a little bit, how do I put this? I am making it a point to remain consistent with the surrounding shots. So for that reason, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to just, I'm not going to give this thing outlines. Okay. I am not going to give it outlines. I'm just going to draw it on. I'm just going to smack it up over top of it, and then we'll use the darker color to just give it some shadows. Okay, and here, of course, because of gravity, her you know, the coins, if you will, on this pendant would be kind of leaning in a certain direction based on how she's standing there. So that, I think that works pretty well, actually. So in case you forgot the folder, I sent it to you again. Forgive me, Amar. I'm assuming, first of all, that you're talking to me, and I remember something, but I'm having a bit of a brain fart here. What are we talking about? Folder. Oh, that's right. You basically, okay. So, guys, Amar, Art with Amar B, did me quite a great honor, actually, in that apparently he did what amounts to fan art of the characters from my show that I'm working on here, as an exercise in essentially drawing in a variety of different styles. And so he was sending me the whatever he did with the characters from Salt and Lime. It's a pretty cool thing. Pretty cool thing. Okay, so I actually think here, I'm gonna, let me see, I wanna, but yeah, I don't remember seeing an email of it. I don't remember, how did you say you sent it? Did you email it to me? To my fairly public Gmail address? Cool beans. So I'm allowing myself to kind of explore what the light would be doing in terms of how it's hitting these coins on her pendant. Just sent to the Premiere email link to the folder I shared with you. Oh, you sent me the link. Let me double check and see if I got it, buddy. Let me see if I got it. Bear with me for half a second. Yep, there it is. I see it. Okay, I'll check it out later. And by the way, Darren, if you're still here, I actually question. I haven't spent a lot of time. Like I opened up. So Darren T did a shot. He did ink and paint on a shot from this show. Okay, so this is just kind of a, just an experiment with sort of a little bit of a group workflow kind of thing that we're doing. Okay, so I looked at it very quickly on the laptop yesterday, and I want to really unpack it and take some time with it. So, so my question is, do you want me to do that publicly? Do you want me to go ahead and just pop it out and without any preliminary preparation, just say, okay, here's what it is, and let's look at it, or would you rather just have me look at it, critique it, yada yada yada, privately? I'm good either way. I really don't care. I'm just gonna do that in this case. Oh, okay. So S key, Control C, go back one frame, Control V. Okay, B key. Actually, I don't want the B key. I still want to use the V key. I'm just going to put those in there. And then here, again, they're all going off screen. We don't see it. So now you could argue here on this one, we probably are going to catch a little bit of something. So might be best looking at off screen. This okay. That's fine. That's what I'll do. Man, I'm juggling a lot of things, and I really wanted to sort of take some time with it, and et cetera, et cetera. So, okay, cool. Let's render that, pop it into the show, and see what we have, because I think I might be done. I still need to add monkey. I'll clean it up. Don't have the character sheets. Proud of some parts, but I suppose you have plenty of comments. Right. I mean, right. So, yeah, cause what you did, you didn't you didn't just do ink and paint like a grunt, okay? So just for the purpose of everybody understanding, I sent Darren the pencil test, and with lots of latitude, kind of do whatever you want with it, and let's see, have fun and do what you want to do. And so at one extreme, it would be adding layers and plastic tools, secondary animation, and sub-X sheets, and, really, really going to town on the scene. That would be one extreme. The other extreme would be, well, I have a pencil test. Now I need to draw the ink lines and fill them in with color. Just grunt work, ink and paint. So what Darren did with it was at the first extreme. It's a pretty involved scene. So I want to look at it from several vantage points. you know, from, the quality, the ink lines, the movement, the methodology, both in terms of the logistics of the scene versus the way certain things were achieved. You know what I'm saying. So anyway, I think, did I render this? I don't know, but it renders so fast that it really doesn't matter. Let's come over here. So let's pop back over here. And okay, here we go. So here she goes. Okay, the only problem, and it's kind of a biggie, boom. Okay, first of all, we need to mitigate the problem. The problem is that there's no secondary animation on the necklace. Okay? However, it could definitely be argued that this shot should be cut down anyway. Okay, and that needs to be correct. And one wonders if... Okay, yeah, see the sequence there is... We really don't see her move until... So we do have a continuity issue here, in that the coins are moving in the opposite direction that she swiped her arm. So I mentioned that yesterday. Frankly, I don't think I'm going to worry about that problem. I just don't think it matters in this shot that much. Now, if I redo this shot, which is a very real possibility for a bunch of reasons I won't get into at the moment, then I will address that continuity issue. But basically, I'm really liking what I'm seeing here. I feel like we've got it to where it needs to be in terms of the image quality. And as I say, the flaw is that at the end of it, right here, the necklace essentially freezes in place. So let's split the difference. Let's stretch this just a little bit longer. And then let's add that secondary animation. Okay, so that means I've shot myself in the foot a little bit because right here, boy, did I ever. Oh, boy. You guys see what I did? Well, this comes back down to planning again. Well, I'm going to do this in the only way that I can think of at the moment, which is I am going to make 2 duplicates. I'm just going to suffer doing it the hard way. Okay? You're not going to believe this, but here's how I'm going to do it. Okay, wait a second. There's 20. So 22. What I'm going to do is I'm going to grab this color here, hit the V key, and I want to put this in areas mode, and I'm hoping that what that's going to let me do is just erase this stuff, and that looks like it worked. Okay, so cool. So my problem is solved. Thought it was going to be a big deal. It's going to be a little deal. Okay, so there's that. Great. Now all we got to do is animate the darn things. So let's grab this color. We'll keep this on the large size. And I'm going to say that's going to fall there and then maybe settle just a little bit. This is going to go down a little bit and then settle. This is going to kind of go like boom, boom, and settle. Okay, back to, this is not going to move much. It's kind of where it's going to be. This one, on the other hand, is going to move kind of a lot. Yep. Bop, bop, bop. Cool. That was easy. I said I had given myself a big problem, but basically it's kind of a little problem. Kind of a little problem, people. Obviously this line right here needs to be covered up. Let me just go through this sequence and delete any lines that need to be covered up. Yeah. Okay. Takes care of that. Boom, 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 bop a dee bop, a bop a dee bop, boop, bop a dee bop, bop 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 a dee bop dee bop, bop a dee bop bop bop. Now, what we might find out, to our chagrin, is that at 8 frames per second, thanks, Darren. Amar, yeah, I thought about that. We'll see. I'm gonna come back to that point here. We're just kind of working this up one step at a time, kind of thing. So, yeah. See, now that's pretty subtle. We just see him jingle a little bit. That's fine. I would even probably cut off the last frame. Yeah, and the reason. Yep, something like that. Blop. Yeah, there we go. Look at that. Now that actually is really weird in that I think I would argue that psychologically the bouncing of the coins in the right, Darren, that's the risk. That is exactly the risk you run. It's a very real risk too. At 12 frames per second, there's no question. A smear tween would work really well. At 8 frames, it usually causes the overall motion to have to take so long because it requires 2 frames to do it, that everything just moves too slowly. So then what you find out is you're effectively going from this to this, and if there was one more frame in the middle for the smear, the movement would just take too long. It would be too slow. And the timing of this is pretty good. It's hard to argue with the timing. So my sense is, and the reason I haven't addressed it, Amar, is because I'm pretty sure it's going to do more harm than good. Yeah, I knew what you meant. 1 frame. Yep. So I'm going to come back over here, and now what I was saying is that the jingling, shaky coins in her pendant, since it cuts right after that, it sort of transitions nicely into this coin flying through the air kind of feeling. It's almost like a little bit of a continuity to it. Boom. Isn't that cool? That's pretty cool. I'm just going to say I think my work on this shot is done. I think we got it. Some editing, some post effects, some fixes. All in all, I think we're in. Okay, so the smear can happen at the arm raise to blend that arm down. Yeah, you could. You could. Let's look at that. Let's jump over here, and it's always worth a look. No harm in looking. Okay, so this. So you're saying from here? Yeah, you could do it here. You could do it here because, specifically because this is literally a 1 frame tween. So what you would do is you'd put some smear on that particular level. Now we've got a little bit of an obnoxious complication here. And the complication is the only way we're going to actually be able to do it is to add an additional raster level, which is kind of crazy for one single frame, but I think that's basically what's got to happen here. When I've done this in the past, there was a scene you might remember where Mel is up on the hill looking down at the tent where he first encounters Tianara, and he jumps. And what I'm doing right now, I did then as well. And I basically used the oil paint brush to smear the colors. And at the end of the day, from what I recall, it just didn't really look that good. But let's try it. Let's go ahead and try it. Why not? Because this is only on the screen for 1 frame. So it's certainly worth a try. All right? We'll just do it with a raster level. We're just going to essentially add motion blur. And if we wanted to, since we're going from this to this, we could also, whoops, darn it. We could also do this. And Amar might be right. I mean, this might work. I'm actually going to add a little bit of the shadow color as well. I mean, as I say, it's absolutely worth a try. Okay, so now we're going to grab the flesh tone, and let's make a really big brush. Okay. I mean, it's certainly an anime kind of thing, for sure. So let's just render it and look at the show and see if it worked. And if it works, it works. The smear can happen at the arm. Raise the arm. So it's like it's still the same frame, but it blends both frame. That I don't think would work. It has to be one single frame. Yeah. Okay. So here's what I would say. Okay. So basically, yes and no. What I would say is it works if it's somewhat more transparent. So this is what I would do. I'm going to come back over here, and we're going to take 2 steps. Step number 1 is we're going to take column 5, and we are going to blur it. Okay? Okay? Now, that's a little bit of a strong blur. Let's make this like 15 pixels, I think. Okay, yeah, so it's got a little bit of that texture to it. And then the other thing I'm going to do is go ahead and start hammering down the opacity of it. So it just kind of suggests, let's try that. The blur might be working against us because it almost creates a glow type of feeling, but let's find out. So I'm going to render that, and let's see. Okay, so we could probably belabor this all day, but my considered opinion is I kind of want to stand by my original opinion. I think it basically puts something in the shot that you're going, what the heck was that? Over in Tahoma, I am going to lower the opacity even more and do a re-render to just see if that this concept can be salvaged. But my sense is that it just creates a distraction. Yeah, even if I make it really light, it doesn't matter. It just creates this little flash that you're going, what the heck was that? All right. So I'm going to say, unfortunately, I'm looking at the X sheet in the other screen. And so bear with me here, folks. I know that you can't see what I see at the moment. This is going to be quick. I just need to clean my cast and save my well, I'm not going to save my work. I will, but I'm going to first render it. Okay, it's done rendering, and now I'm going to save all, and then in this screen I'm going to look at this again. And so I stand firmly, absolutely 100% behind my original opinion. Absolutely. At 8 frames per second, just having it snap from position to position, as far as I'm concerned, looks way, way better. It was certainly worth a try, though. I mean, I've played around with it, and every time I've tried this type of thing, we could talk for half an hour about all the different ways you could try it that might work. But basically, what I've always found is it's one thing too many. It's just one thing too many, because at 8 frames per second, there's just not time to make it work. So, good idea, though. You know, certainly worth a poke. So I think, friends, that this shot is in fact complete. What are we doing here? 2 hours and a half. So I'm going to smack this up onto the big screen at good full. And I can definitely see some things that could be cleaned up on that shot. Okay, we've got interpolation on that shot. Sorry guys, pause, properties, disable resample, which suggests that probably this shot's going to have the same problem, and indeed it does. So here we go. And her arm looks stupid too. I definitely want to fix up that shot. We're in the zone. we're in the zone. I'm liking what I'm seeing. There's still things I want to fix, but if I go back to my list here, shot 22, defocus the background on 122. Going back over to the show and looking at 122, and it looks like I already did that. So that's done. Oops. Defocus the background. Okay, add the necklace on 099K. Oh boy. So now I'm coming back over here, and and by the way, TNR needs her pendant in these shots too, so there's yet another thing that's got to be fixed. Here, I guess it needs to be there too. So I would say it's break time. There's definitely still some things to fix, and you know what? I knew this was gonna happen back when I told you guys that I was gonna jump back out of episode 2 and jump into episode 1 and start fixing things. And what we're finding is there's a lot of things to fix. But the good news is it's looking better. You know, things are improving. I'm liking it. So, looking at Amar's final comments, and then I'm gonna basically wrap it up. And I think I'm gonna go have me a refreshing brewski and just take a break. If I can rewind the video and have time, I'll do that same 3-frame shot to show you what I'm talking about. Yeah, I'd like to see it. That would be cool. Thanks for the stream, and I shared that information with you. Yep, okay, cool. Yeah, I'll be checking my email. So in the comments, I'll say, see ya, because as you guys know, there will be more.